I've traveled globally, and I'm not sure that there's another country that could be as stretching for you personally and professionally, but also really supportive and welcoming and nurturing. It's a nice combination of being really different from the States, but also a really pleasant and lovely place to land. And you should just go for it.
My most heartfelt advice to future applicants is to live your Fulbright experience to the fullest. Immerse yourself not only in your professional goals and activities, but in Georgian community, culture, and routines. Remember to listen and speak with an open heart, to get to know your colleagues on their own terms, to meet their families and learn details about their daily lives as well as their work. Visit their villages if you're invited. Develop an interest in local traditions, historic figures, and their significance to your technical field, and understand what it is that truly drives your Georgian colleagues. Always don your cultural understanding glasses when you encounter the unfamiliar. Most importantly, accept Georgian hospitality in the spirit of joy with which it is always offered, and allow it to soak into your own worldview. You will ever be the richer for it, and you're likely to gain many deep lifetime friendships as a result.
If you want to do good work in Georgia, you can. Georgians are highly creative, and they have an incredible work ethic, and their valuing of education is tremendous. Go.
Apply, absolutely. Being a Fulbrighter in Georgia is just an outstanding experience. Georgians are so welcoming of guests.
I had done some consulting work in Georgia in 2017, and I really loved the country, but felt like I had just gotten a little snapshot during my consulting experiences and short visits. So I wanted to go longer, get to know my Georgian colleagues better, get to know the culture, and have a personal and professional experience that I sort of had a hint that it might be really interesting to have in Georgia.
Georgia has such a culture of hospitality.
On several previous trips to the country, I met the people I wanted to work with. In addition, the country is very beautiful and very diverse, and I wanted to discover more of it.
Prior to my Fulbright, I had visited Georgia numerous times, and I fell in love with the people and the culture, the arts, the music, the foodways, and I felt a deep connection with so many of the people I met in all walks of life in the Georgian community.
I am an early riser. So once I got over jet lag, I was getting up before most of the people in Tbilisi were. And people didn't want to meet with me before 10 a.m. So I ended up with a kind of a daily routine of going up Matsminda. I was living just at the base of the mountain, and would run up it and run down it every morning. It was a great way to start the day.
My daily life in Georgia was varied from day to day, similar to how it is as a professor here in the States. I was on a teaching and research fellowship. So some days I was teaching undergraduate and graduate classes, or I was doing trainings and workshops for early childhood professionals, or for PhD students, or even for faculty. And other times I was writing manuscripts and writing grant proposals.
I really had an extremely varied routine, ranging from hours researching historic materials in the museum libraries, to strategy conversations with museum staff, to artist studio visits, to road trips to meet working ceramic artists in nearby museums and towns outside of Tbilisi. One thing about schedule and routine is that plans are often made at what Americans might consider to be last-minute timing. So I learned to always expect the unexpected when in Georgia. Georgians work at a different pace than Americans do, and work often starts later in the day and stretches more organically into the evenings and into social interactions. My schedule and routine always becomes more spontaneous and more nocturnal when I'm in Georgia. Late night is often can be considered a completely normal time to drop by to visit a friend or colleague, discuss something either personal or professional, stopping by at 9 or 10 p.m., depending on the friend, of course, really can be considered absolutely normal.
My routine was varied, but every day was interesting. I taught courses at Tbilisi State University in lexicography. I roamed around the city of Tbilisi. I traveled both around Georgia and in the Caucasus. I went to concerts, ballets, plays. I gave guest lectures. And of course, I drank lots of Georgian wine.
Professionally, I made so much progress on my book, and my book is coming out in 1 month. I'm so excited to see it actually out. And the bulk of the progress I made was during the Fulbright, having people around me who could talk about the issues, even just informally. They would ask, how are you doing with your writing? And I would share what I was doing, and they knew what Georgia was. They knew about the issues I was writing about, and that was just really, really helpful to keep me going. Personally, I had so many surprises. I got to Tbilisi and discovered, oh, there's going to be a Tbilisi marathon soon. And I registered for it. And I ran for the first time in my life the Tbilisi marathon. It was actually a half marathon, but they called it the Tbilisi marathon. And I think I will never have another chance to actually run a marathon the way there's this Tbilisi marathon let me run the half marathon. I barely made it, but I made it to the finish line, and that's something I just don't think I would have done, except that I was away on the Fulbright and I had time in the mornings. Another personal highlight for me was the other Fulbrighters. A group of us decided to do a weekend up in Kazbeki region in Stepetsminda. And so we arranged to get cars, and we got up there, and we stayed, arranged to stay at a hotel together, and then did lots of different hiking and walking around the city and visiting the sites there, and then had dinner together. And it was just a nice weekend away with other Fulbrighters and getting to know a different part of Georgia.
The highlight was the creation of a dictionary of student slang at Tbilisi State University, completed with 4 master's degree students in lexicography. It was both a hilarious experience as well as a scholarly and research-oriented one.
Some of the highlights were a Georgian Supra that I attended with my family and 2 other Fulbrighters to one of my Georgian colleagues' house. It was her aunt's house, and all of her extended family were there. And we had great Georgian food and wine and did toasts all evening and laughed and cried. And it was a wonderful example of Georgian hospitality and their emphasis on relationship and connection. Another great memory was picking and stomping on grapes during the harvest season and swimming in waterfalls in the mountains. On that trip in the mountains, we stayed at a homestay, and my 10-year-old daughter woke up a little early, and I remember finding her in the hostess's kitchen making donuts with her, which was really neat and a memorable experience for her. My professional memories were also great. I planned a conference with my Georgian colleagues, and we also wrote and got a grant proposal, a research grant proposal, which was really neat.
My most memorable experience was the opportunity to visit the storerooms of the Georgian National Museum with one of the collection's curators. There, I was able to view examples of historic ceramic wares from the medieval era to the dawn of the Christian era in the 4th to 5th century, and even as far back as the late Bronze Age. I was even offered the chance, appropriately gloved, of course, to gently handle these treasures, to feel their weight and assess their texture, to understand via touch the delicacy of their craftsmanship. It was truly one of the deepest and most moving experiences of my own artistic life to feel that connection, a wordless and instinctive tie, linking me to artisans that worked thousands of years ago, and to understand and learn from these ancient colleagues about their process of making clay vessels. It was an astounding bridge, a bridge across culture and across time itself.